Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. This is our 33rd InboundTO, and my name is Caitlin. I'm the marketing manager here at Powered by Search and also the organizer for this event. So tonight we're going to be going through startup success stories. So we're going to be hearing from some founders of some of Toronto's fastest growing companies, or representatives I should say, and we're going to have the opportunity to ask them a few questions, hear their stories, and learn from them. From Peace Collective, tonight we have Jordan McDonald. And he actually lives a double life, so he's the head of business development and sales over at Peace Collective, as well as a senior business development manager for enterprise accounts, specifically government and public sector businesses over at Salesforce. And he does believe in taking a consultative approach to every conversation. So I believe Jordan's sticking around in the break, so if you have extra questions for him, I'm sure he'd be happy to chat with you.
Okay, before we get up and running here, curious to know how many of you guys know what Peace Collective is or who we are? Just by show of hands. Okay, cool, a couple, but there's some explaining to do. So as Caitlin said, my name is Jordan McDonald. I'm from Peace Collective. What I do there is I run the business development, so anything to do with revenue. Partnerships, collaborations, bring in retailers, that's kind of what I do. Yonge couldn't make it tonight. Unfortunately, he had to attend to some other issues. He's our founder. I've been with him pretty much since day one. I was employee 2 of now 6 people, so I can speak to kind of his experience, and that's what I'm here to do today. Just tell you our story, really. And I'm going to do that just by talking about kind of how we got started, the things that made us successful, and then finish off with some key takeaways and open the floor to questions to you guys. I'm hoping to take about 20 minutes. I'm hoping this is pretty interactive, and by the end you don't hate or bore with listening to my voice. So, I'm sure we can all attest to this in the room. It's tough to get started. It's tough to get going as an entrepreneur, as a startup. There's always that fear. There's always that risk. There's always that uncertainty on the other side of things. And it's exactly the same with Yonge. A little bit of background on him. Yonge graduated school with a science degree. His whole thing was to go into either medicine or research. And why I say that is because it's kind of weird that he ended up in fashion. No design, no fashion experience, no business experience. Right side of school, Yonge started in sales, and he ended up at a company called Salesforce. And why that's important to talk about today is because Salesforce is a very comfortable career choice for Yonge. He obviously had kind of the starting of his career set, and in the rest of his life, off to a great start. So that's what made it so hard for him to kind of switch over, was that uncertainty, that willingness to give everything up for something that you don't know how it's going to turn out. And we all go through this, but really I'm here to kind of talk to you about making that jump today and really having the confidence in yourself and your idea to move forward. So Peace Collective, for those of you who don't know, Peace Collective is a clothing company, but we're a bit of a different clothing company. We focus on minimalist designs that allows each and every one of you to kind of show the passion for your city and for your country on your back. It's a unique business model, however, that's attached to it. I'm not sure, are any of you familiar with what's called the 1-for-1 model? Should I show hands? Okay, a couple people. So 1-for-1, basically what that means is you're attaching a charitable component to a purchase of a good or service. So in the case of Peace Collective, what we do in our business model is for every purchase of a garment, whether that's a hat or a toque or whatever you want to purchase, a portion of that money that you paid goes to a charity. We partner with Breakfast for Learning, which is a group in Canada that provides school meals to students in need. So you're getting a t-shirt and you're also kind of impacting students. And really the whole thing for us was allowing students across the country to pursue their passions by gaining education. And that's really why and where the idea kind of started. As I said at the starting, Yonge didn't have the confidence to jump right into it. So how everything kind of set off was he took a couple black t-shirts with his friends, went to a local screen printer, and printed the design you see here today, Toronto versus everybody. That same day he went to a Raptors game with the t-shirts on, and the response was extremely favorable. People kept asking him, where did you get that shirt? Where can I get it? Where was it made? TSN at the same time was also doing a short documentary series on kind of We the North movement and this passion that's coming across Toronto. And they actually featured his shirt within the documentary too. This is before the company even started. So this started kind of getting the gears turning in Yonge's head and really kind of showed him that there's demand for this and I've got something here. However, he wasn't ready to jump in. He was still at Salesforce at that point. He needed something different. Fashion, as we all know, is an incredibly competitive market, and wanted something more. He needs something to differentiate himself within such a crowded area. As part of Salesforce, went on a volunteer trip to Rabat, Morocco. And what he did there basically was volunteered in local schools to help children, to help the teachers, basically provide the education to the students. And he noticed something really interesting while on this trip to Morocco. And that was that students were showing up more to school when the school provided meals than when they weren't. Because what actually happened was when a meal wasn't provided by the school, parents would keep their children at home and send them to the streets to beg to bring money in for the family. So he saw this gap or opportunity, as you can think of it. And this was really to bring more school meals, to empower the youth and get them in school so they can get educated and be able to pursue their passions. So he came back from this particular trip with a fire in his heart. He was also at the same time reading a book by Blake McCoskey, who some of you might know, the founder of Tom's. And he talks about this one-for-one model, and that's where the idea kind of sparked. Put two and two together, and he knew he wanted to create a clothing company, because that was his passion, that's what he started, and he also knew he wanted to fill this gap and fill this void. So we originally started partnering, and he got the idea to partner with a group called the World Food Organization, who I'm sure many of you heard. However, still didn't jump right in. It took him a few months to kind of figure out what was going on, and it also took him a few months to learn how to get everything started. He had no background with technology, and as I said, was not a business guy. He had to learn how to start up a company, he had to learn how to create a website, and he also had to learn how to sew, believe it or not, too. So like any good startup, and I'm sure all of you can attest to this, the company started in a basement, not even his own basement. In fact, it was his mom and dad's. And everything was built out of the basement, everything from taking the screen printed designs and hand sewing each and every tag, taking them, pick and packing them, bringing them to the post office to ship to the online customers. He even had to teach himself how to bring up the website and how to set up the online platform for people to purchase from. So it was definitely a huge learning curve. This is kind of where I came in. I knew from a couple different work experiences and things like this, and as he was getting started with the company and ramping up, he kept reaching out to me. I've got a background working with some other corporations, and I also graduated from a business program in Canada as well. So he kept asking me different business ideas and how to set things up, and then asked me to come on full time. And that's really when we got started. The start of it came about in October 2014, and ever since then we've been head down, moving forward. However, it wasn't an overnight success, and what I mean by that is, yes, we've only been around a year and a half, but our first month in October, when quit Salesforce and started selling, he made $38 to his name that month. So you can see kind of the patience that's involved with this startup, and that's really what I wanted to drive home at this point is you need to kind of keep your head down and keep moving because it's going to work out. There's going to be some good months. There's going to be some real bad months. But if you can kind of keep your vision in your head and keep your idea and your strategy going forward, you can be successful. So this is where the patience really started for us. We needed to build up who we are and kind of get our brand out there. But the question was, how are we going to do that? Social media, huge topic. I'm sure we all know about it. It's an amazing avenue to reach out to thousands, if not millions of people that you want to target as an entrepreneur, as someone with a startup. However, too many people approach social media with that mentality that it's going to be easy to get these people and not enough strategy behind it. This is where really set the organization and the brand apart from other clothing companies trying to start up. He took a very strategic approach at social media, and that's really why we are here today. What he did at first was he put the customer at the center of our business. What I mean by that is defining who they are, their demographic, their age, what they like, and most importantly, how they touch media, how they touch content, how do they consume things. And what he found out, and I found out when we mapped that out together, was Instagram. This was going to be our platform. This is how we were going to launch the brand. And really, that's what built Peace Collective. And the Instagram strategy is another piece that kind of brought that strategic mindset towards. It's not about just pushing content to people. Took three main approaches at Instagram, and I think that's really what made us successful at Peace Collective. The first was by producing visually appealing pictures and posts. The second was making sure that posts were relevant to that customer again, keeping them at the center and figuring out what was around them and posting so that we could touch them in certain ways. And third of all, producing content that was really inspired a two-way relationship. What I mean by that is you want to post content, you don't want to push content, you want to bring people into your brand, that inbound piece. I'm going to kind of go back and address each of these points. So for the first point, putting together visuals, compelling visuals that people can relate to. Yonge kind of hit the ground and started reaching out to various photographers in and around Toronto. Anyone that would take his business, take a couple free shirts, and take a little bit of money to produce pictures not only of our clothing, but of the city as well, and those things that the people wanted to see. And that's really how the Instagram account got started up, with those pictures. The second way was producing content that would resonate with the people that we're reaching out to. We were trying to reach out to people that were passionate about their city and their country. So we were producing imagery and also quotations and different things that would be kind of relevant to that specific group. The third piece is that interaction piece, that two-way communication between you and your customer. And to do that, the big thing driven was contests and the ability to repost pictures from your fans or your followers. So we posted a lot of different things from the people that were wearing our clothing, but also from people just taking cool pictures in and around the city and not mentioning them for their work. Believe it or not, this two-way relationship combined with contests and allowing people to kind of post why they're passionate about their country or their city is what really drove our brand to where it is today. Another key component of this is partnerships. Another thing Yonge did very well at the starting was, I gave the example already of reaching out to local photographers. Not only did that, he became kind of a yes man and reached out to anyone and everyone in and around Toronto that was doing something cool. Whether that was a small blogger, whether it was doing things like this, anything to get his name out. And he started very small. Started with bloggers with only a couple hundred followers and things like this. And what this really did was created a real snowball effect. And what I mean by that is he started small, but he did a lot of it. He was constantly working, and eventually the snowball kept growing and growing. And then we had this inbound interest coming from bigger bloggers and then media outlets, people like Elle and Metro and CP24 and things like this. And then before we knew it, there's all these different media outlets coming to us to produce content or produce our story. So you can kind of see the momentum and how these collaborations led to it. We also started partnering up with other influencers on Instagram, and I can't speak enough for you guys, people that said they're interested in learning about social media a bit more, the power of certain influencers on Instagram. We've actually developed an entire, what we call our Peace Ambassador program, which is where we've reached out to influencers and ambassadors with large followings on Instagram, sent them different products and kind of showcased them across our pages when they're wearing them. This has been incredibly successful and has led us to this next point, some of our major partnerships we've been able to create. So a lot of our success was based, like I said, off our Instagram account. But another big piece of this was the major partnerships that we were able to secure as a result of our strong brand image. One of our early followers, a girl named Trika, she kind of found the organization through Instagram, like I said, through those cool posts, and she was an early adopter. She bought one of our first shirts created and kind of followed us and watched us grow. As she watched us grow, she kind of resonated and became attached to the brand more and more and eventually approached us. She worked at the Lululemon on Queen West. I'm not sure if any of you have been there, but she approached us with the idea to create a limited partnership just with the Queen West store. We met with them, we kind of put together the idea, and what we did was we launched a kind of capsule. It was 2 different shirts with our Toronto versus Everybody design on the Lululemon shirts, and they launched them within their store. To our surprise, our launch night, we almost sold out of the entire collection, and within a week, we were entirely sold out. This obviously spread around to the other Lululemons in Toronto, and before we knew it, each and every single store wanted to do a collaboration with us. So we ran a Lulu collaboration for the Pan Am Games. Exciting time with the city. Everyone was kind of on a high when it came to the pride of the city. We thought it would resonate very well. So we launched it right across the city. And once again, we sold out within a matter, I think it was 5 days, right across the city, we sold out all of our product. And again, the snowball kind of kept moving. And before we knew it, we got a phone call from Lululemon headquarters in Vancouver. They wanted to do a national partnership right across the country. And this is pretty cool because I'm not sure now, but at the time they'd only done 3 real partnerships across the country before that. So they flew us down to Vancouver, met with us, and basically talked about what they wanted to do. And they wanted to create a limited partnership, a limited shirt with the design that we put together and released it across the Lululemons right across the country. That launched online as well as right across the country, and again, we sold out online within 2 days, and we sold out across the country within a month. I'm sure you can kind of see the success of this story. A brand like Lululemon is incredibly important for us to attach to because I'm going to go back to that customer thing, and I'm beating it to death, but I can't stress it's important. We found that our customer at the center, one of the brands that they resonated with was Lululemon, and that's one thing that touched them, each and every single one of them. So the fact that we were able to kind of secure this touch point meant that we could grow our brand to a whole different a group of people outside of just the Toronto market. And that was really our strategy here for growth right across Canada. So that was one of our big partnerships that led to the success. Another big partnership, and again with that snowball, was with the Toronto Blue Jays. Some of you might be familiar with their big playoff run that recently happened in October. It was right around then that we thought, hey, let's reach out, let's send them some things, and let's see if they're going to put them on. Let's hope. This goes back to that partnership thing. Reaching out, sending people things, partnering with the right people that are going to influence your customers and help you spread your brand. So we send a bunch of stuff to players like, I'm not sure if this resonates with you guys, but like Jose Bautista, David Price at the time, some of the big names in baseball. To our surprise, one day, right before the playoffs, a couple pictures started popping up on Instagram. Jose Bautista, Josh Donaldson, and David Price all wearing our Toronto versus everybody shirts in Instagram. And this was a huge thing for us. But that was really only the starting. I'm sure we all remember when Jose Bautista hit that home run, the city exploded, everyone went crazy. I'm not sure if anyone realized, but during that game, obviously he rounded the bases, celebrated with his team, went to the change room, showered in a lot of champagne, but after that came out with our shirt on to run the post-game conference. And this, you really couldn't draw it up any better. It's like the perfect narrative that we kind of got them at the low, and then at the high we were part of it as well. And this all came just from us kind of cold reaching out to a contact that we made, and we sent shirts to the entire starting lineup with the hopes that someone would wear it. There was no guarantee. So you guys can see kind of what I'm trying to drive home here is you need to be reaching out to these partnerships, and you need to be reaching out to the people that your customers resonate with. And you can't fear rejection, and sometimes you have to spend the money too. Obviously, we could have thrown away some inventory in that specific case, but it was a risk we were willing to take, and obviously that risk was rewarded with the Blue Jays partnership. The last point really I want to drive home here is Yonel's ability to kind of recognize gaps within his business and being able to fill those with people. Early on, Yonel and I went to Ernst & Young. They run this Entrepreneur of the Year thing. We went to the kickoff, and they had this great panel set up much like this where the speakers were up front. They were successful CEOs of companies. And one of the individuals, and I'll never forget this, and Yonel hasn't either, basically said that the key to his success is he hires people smarter than him in the areas that he's not good at. And I think Yonel's done a really great job of that from the starting. I mentioned at the starting that I was brought on for the business piece because Yonel literally didn't even know how to put together a business plan at the starting. And then he brought on a PR person who was an expert in that area. Now we have inventory people and people who specialize in customer service and design and things like that. So I think this quote really resonates with us and should resonate with you as well, because it's a part of the success story that I didn't really speak about throughout it, but it's incredibly important to bring the right people in to kind of fill the gaps and the things that you don't think you're good at as an entrepreneur and as a leader. I know I kind of went quick through the story, but really what I wanted to drive home here was the ability to basically set out a strategy and execute it, and kind of the fact that you have to hold on to your vision and keep your head down and keep moving. I know that's a lot of buzzwords and that's a lot to consume in one, but I wanted to kind of show you guys the possibility and how this snowball can keep rolling to get you the places you want to be. It's worth it to put yourself out there. It's worth it to jump with both feet in, and you need to stop fearing rejection and just go for it. The only reason we got in with the Blue Jays is because we sent some free shirts out. The only reason we got in with Lululemon is because some girl liked our Instagram page at the starting. Now, Peace Collective is in 20 different retailers across the country, 40 different doors. We're on pace to do over $1 million in sales this year. We brought on another 3 employees. We should be at about 10 by the end of this year. And all this success is based on that social media strategy and everything I've talked about today. I want to thank you guys for listening. I hope that was engaging, and I'll open the floor to some questions and comments. Thanks. That was quick.
So I'm just going to repeat that to make sure everyone heard it. So question about the ambassador program. He was asking how much does Peace Collective pay for that to help incentivize people in adoption with that?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that in 2 ways. I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to talk about kind of how you should set it up to be successful. So the way you should set up an ambassador program to be successful is to try and monetize it and to be able to track it. So what we do is we actually give them a discount code like many other brands do, and then you can track the sales that you've gotten in. So that's the first point I'll make. How we pay them is actually through clothing. So they get as much gear as they want, and obviously they pay at a cost. So they have their own website to come in and request their inventory. We keep track of that, and we assign a cost per influencer. We compare that to the revenue they brought in, and we can do a monthly profit. And if we don't see people turning profits, then we're going to ask them, we're going to close down their website. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so just to rephrase, so you're getting a lot of likes on Instagram, you're getting a lot of followers, using a lot of hashtags, but it's kind of spread out all over across different geographies. How do you actually bring that back to your locale and leverage that for actual business growth?
So I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not in hair. I don't know anything about cutting hair. But if I were to give advice on this just from our experience, what we did was when we had these followers, when we had these people with good followings and influential people around us, we reached out to them to try and get us to share our brand. Because yes, they're in the US, but you never know who's going to be following them and where they're from. So if you can engage with somebody and offer them some type of incentive, or even if it's just a good person and they want to have a good relationship with you because they enjoy your page, if you ask them to share some of your content, you get to reach out to a whole new group because their followers are going to be different than yours, and you never know where they're going to be from. So same with us. We only operate in Canada. Only in Canada. We can only sell in Canada based on our designs. We have a ton of followers that come from all over the place, and we encourage all of them to share our products and share our imagery if they're into it. And that really just opens you up to new markets, right? So the actual ambassador program itself, so we use Shopify as our online portal, so that's how we track all their orders and also kind of the revenue that comes in because people use the discount code. In terms of actually tracking it, it's all done on a spreadsheet right now. So using Shopify, you can pull up the reports based on a discount code. You can also pull up the inventory that person's purchased, quick model put together, and you can see cost. Yep.
Okay, so just to repeat, that first question was about, are there any other competitors to Peace Collective who are kind of capitalizing on the emotional connection with a city or location? And then second question was, how does the one-to-one relationship with the nonprofits help bolster the brand and sales?
Yep, it's a good question, and I think you kind of answered it on your own in a sense, so I'll answer both parts of the question. So is there competition? Yes, I'm sure all of us in Toronto have seen all these Toronto startup clothing brands popping up anywhere and everywhere. You can go to pretty much any boutique and you'll see a CN Tower or a Six in clothing now. We jumped on it a bit earlier than some of these competitors, but there's a ton of them spinning up everywhere. Obviously, we're at an all-time high in terms of city pride with the All-Star Weekend and things like that, so there's going to be more. There's going to be a ton more. And you answered my question of how we compete with that. It's because of our one-to-one model. None of these groups have a one-to-one model yet. Maybe some of them will come out with it, but as of right now, they haven't. And that really resonates with people. The brand that we've been kind of willing to and communicated is we're going to allow you to pursue your passion and show your passion and help children do the same. That's kind of how we've done it. And we post our stats all the time. We've donated over $50,000 just in our first year. It's a constant part of our focus. Lululemon, when they did the partnership, they also just donated flat like $10,000 to the charity as well. We also do events, and we're going to do more events around the city. So that's really the competitive advantage that we have right now over the rest of these brands. Anyone can put a Six or a CN Tower on clothing, but not everyone has the ability to donate, right?
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, so just for that, does Peace Collective do any sort of market or product research before going forward with a slogan to print on the shirts? And have there been any disasters?
Yeah. Yes, we do market research, but it's in a different sense in the clothing industry. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but you have the ability to buy kind of a limited inventory at the starting and kind of release it and see how it goes. You can axe a design whenever you want as a creator, right? So we've had colorways that haven't worked. For example, we had a forest green colorway that we all thought would be amazing just based on where fashion was going. That was one of the big colors. Surprisingly, kind of flopped. People didn't like it, people didn't buy it. So we sold out of our inventory fairly quickly. What we didn't, we put on the sale website and closed it. So yes, we do market research in the sense that we can kind of put things up and take them down quickly. We don't actually go out and beta test with a group or anything like that, if that's what you were looking towards. We haven't yet. Perhaps something we could do in the future. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much, Jordan. Awesome presentation. So one more round of applause for you.